It's Spoilerin time. This is the show that is the companion to Cordkillers. On Cordkillers, we figure out how to watch things. On Spoilerin time, we've watched them and we sit down and talk about them. This week, we're going to talk about Raised by Wolves, Season 2, Episode 3, The Righteous Gemstones, Season 2, Episode 7, and the finale of The Book of Boba Fett. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Hey, but most importantly, we are joined by the internet's own and co-host of, I believe, a little show called Let's Talk About Star Wars, Jenny Josephson. How are you, Jenny?
Woohoo! I am full of Kenobi rage and Book of Boba Fett satisfaction.
Ooh, well, I'll tell you what. We'll have you go first. Tell us everything that filled you with love and happiness and respect.
I got everything I wanted, and it didn't drag out to the Mandalorian. That's basically it. We saw a lot of Boba Fett, right? And Boba Fett was always in charge of his own actions and his own destiny. And I thought, he was never totally overwhelmed by the adorability of Senor Baby. I really loved the way all the set pieces came together in one chaotic Robert Rodriguez frenzy. And mostly, I just loved Baby Yoda falling asleep next to the Rancor. I couldn't have been happier if you had given me $1 million.
Nah.
Some of this is going to feel
Oh.
familiar to people who subscribe to Let's Talk About Star Wars that Jenny and I are both on. But I like the Book of Boba Fett. I love The Mandalorian. I loved episodes 5 and 6 of the Book of Boba Fett. I liked episode 7 of the Book of Boba Fett. There were some great moments. There were some fun bits, and most of them involved Grogu and Din Djarin. And I felt like there were some longish bits that had some good action and some waiting to see where this goes action. I do wonder why they just didn't send Fennec Shand to go attack everyone right away. She's so badass. She could have taken care of all of this herself. But I feel like I need to be the baryonic chamber that brings us from Jenny to Brian. Brian, what did you think?
I have a lot of confused feelings about this episode. Again, per the format, I don't want to just repeat everything you say. So I tend to have a reputation for pooping on things more than you do. There was a brief moment that I was really, really confused. They did bring so many moving pieces all together for the end. They did a credible, good Alamo sequence, The Last Stand, betrayal against all these houses or whatever. Also kind of weird that the Pike Syndicate, all they had to do is kill 3 Pike Syndicate members to get rid of them. That's neither here nor there. Totally didn't believe it when they were like, yep, they gunned down Timothy Oliphant in cold blood. I'm like, don't lie to my face like that. That's gross. The action set pieces were big. The same delightful confusion I have as somebody who did not really dig at all the prequels, seeing remnants of the prequels with those force bubble, the whatever droids, the battle droids coming up. I found myself enjoying, but here was the real confusion. Oh, and we got the scene that we all knew was coming where Boba Fett's on a Rancor and all that stuff. Over the past week, I remember reading an article it was an interview with some director and I couldn't remember if it was Peacemaker or Boba Fett, but I remember the director saying, it was either James Gunn or Jon Favreau saying, I can't believe they let me do what I did on the last episode. Nobody's going to see it's coming. It's outrageous. And there was this brief moment that, because this is a weird first season of a show called The Book of Boba Fett, considering that almost half of it had no Boba Fett in it, right? And the part where Boba Fett is in, we see no development, no character arc, no explanation, no changes, no witty, like he's very, very neutral. And halfway through this, I realized this must be the show with the incredible surprise ending that I've been expecting. They're going to kill Boba Fett. That's why they called it the Book of Boba Fett, because secretly, this is The Mandalorian Season 3. Look at this. I'm getting goosebumps even imagining it right now. I was like, that is the ballsiest, most amazing thing. I can't believe oh my, nope. Just keep all the action figures selling, keep everyone alive, have no consequences for anything. Anything hard is soft, anything soft is hard, anything scary is lovable, anything lovable is scary. Welcome to the new Star Wars. And then I was like, all right. But having said that, it was really good. The other question I had was, I wonder who directed this one.
Oh, here we go.
And I because it was epic and it was big and it felt bigger than most of the Robert Rodriguez episodes have felt. And then them candy-colored greasers showed up, and I was like, "This is Robert Rodriguez," and sure enough, it was. But having said all that. I cannot fault it because making Star Wars is hard. They turned in a big Star Wars. It was a big Star Wars.
So there's a even if you love them both, there's I think generalized agreement that man, The Mandalorian was the best part of Boba Fett.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Those episodes.
I mean, there was Skywalker, you know.
Yeah.
Sure. But that was The Mandalorian,
Yes.
right?
So
I wonder if it's because we've had 2 seasons of Mandalorian and we've only had bits and pieces of Boba Fett. For most people, it's just very small appearances in movies. For some of us, it's a little bit of his backstory as a young kid becoming Boba Fett in Clone Wars. But it was almost harder to work within the constraints of what we do know about Boba Fett and reintroduce him than it was to invent Mandalorian from whole cloth and take 2 seasons to familiarize him and get you to love him. Whereas Boba Fett, you're starting from farther up, but you also don't have as much time to establish him. Hence, lots of backstory, lots of flashbacks, etc.
Not to bring up David Tennant again, because why would I do that? But remember that season where David Tennant was about to leave Doctor Who, and so they just shoved him on every one of those Sarah Jane adventures and Torchwood. Up here's the Doctor. Like, this is an established thing. You take your most famous character and you put him on the new show to make it pop. And so they did that a lot in this season. I would also be a little surprised if they did it as much next season. But in the end, it doesn't matter because it's just all part of this great tapestry of Star Wars storytelling. And I am content because I suffered through the 90s when the literal only thing there was those Thrawn books. So, I'm not
first
a
of all,
complainer.
no, there was an amazing expanded universe, including Tales of the Cantina, Tales of the Bounty Hunters, Tales of Mos Eisley.
There was no television. There was no television. There was no movies.
I Jedi by Stackpole was amazing.
They're all here. They're in my childhood bedroom. I have them all.
So there was another moment that struck me when the Mandalorian and or I guess I should call him Din Djarin, his name, and Boba Fett are both attacking at the same time. I had this flash of, do you remember that moment watching Battlestar Galactica when they come upon the Pegasus, a superior Battlestar, and they, even as it's happening, you're like, I know where this ends up. You can't have 2 Battlestars. And then instead they surprised you with like, no, we just have 2 Battlestars now. It's pretty cool. And then
a spin-off series called Pegasus.
Well, no, but then they didn't, right? Then eventually they had to sacrifice one, but they let us spend enough time that it was even more painful to lose it, right? When I saw the 2 of them fly and attacking the Rancor or the battle droids, I forget which one, a lot of explosions. Also, very weird that the Rancor loved Boba Fett until it shrugged and then threw him down, and then it's like, well, now everyone attack that.
They forgot to add fire to his training. That's all.
Yes.
He got a mouthful of fire.
Yes. But I had this moment of, it was in that moment that I had that thought of, oh my God, you can't have both Galactica and Pegasus. You have to let one go. And they're going to do the bold, hard thing of letting Boba Fett go, and it's going to be amazing and powerful. And once I became fixated on that missed opportunity, it was really hard for me to see much else. But having said all that, they definitely left no loose threads, almost to a fault. And they did give us a little bit of a nod of the why a notorious space bounty hunter would decide to become the mayor of a small town in a desert. And by saying, hey, man, you get old, you want to go legit. I get it. I mean, at least they said that.
And they, I thought Cad Bane was even better in this episode.
Oh, much.
He was fantastic. And the Marshal, they gave us a mid-credits role to be like, oh, and if you want the Marshal to show up in The Mandalorian, don't worry. He's in a Bacta tank. He'll be fine.
Yep. By the way, Ken from Chicago rightfully points out that Brian keeps imagining a better show and is disappointed when it doesn't live up to his imagination. 100%. And you might think that's unfair, except for I have been bested in the chess game of many a movie. And so knowing I can be beat does not excuse them from not beating me. Wait. Please, nobody beat me.
When did you stop getting beaten by Boba Fett? I think expectations have a lot to do with how you enjoy a movie. And the expectation I had was that we were going to get a Tusken Raider story based on what they showed me earlier, and we didn't. But we got a Boba Fett rides a Rancor story. We got a finale that's every kid playing with Star Wars toys would have written this episode story. And if that's what you were hoping for and that's what you were looking for, man, you're super stoked with this episode.
Yeah, and again, like, what a chess game to work within the Disney empire with so many moving pieces and so many people's, planning moves years in advance about characters. Yeah. I mean, it's like I can't imagine the Game of Thrones that is constantly happening in each of the 5 big verticals over at Disney Plus, except for National Geographic. It seems like everybody's just doing whatever they want over there.
Song asks if Chad Bane is dead. I don't.
Chad?
I don't know. I know he means Cad Bane. I was entertained by the idea that there would be a Chad Bane, like a brother or something.
He shows exact same dude, but he just starts every sentence with bro. He's like, bro, you killed my bro, bro.
But is Cad Bane dead?
What's funny is I know from context that he's an important character. I never felt much of a connection to him in this series, so it never occurred to me to question or care whether or not he was dead.
Your man, Jeff, we got a path to bring everyone to Mandalore, and now all I can think of is the path to Mandalore.
Oh, yeah. That's coming. All right. Any other thoughts on the Book of Boba Fett?
I think that's it. Bryce, did you came in as a total outsider to most of the Star Wars ending thing?
Yeah. I don't begrudge that I didn't see last week's episode and I only watched about 10 minutes of this one.
Okay.
It is really not hit for me, the Book of Boba Fett. I overheard you telling your theory earlier today, Brian, to someone else about what if they kill Boba Fett and this is all like, that would have been great. That would have been cool. That amount of creativity that they have for the format of the properties that they're working with doesn't seem to bear out, and that is a shame, regardless of whatever form it is. It's just, we need to do a Boba Fett show. Here's Boba Fett. Put the Mandalorian guy in, and that'll make it better.
You should watch episode 6, though. You really should.
Yeah, yeah. I saw the recap. You
like episode 5. And I think you'll like episode 6.
I did kind of like episode 5. So I don't know. There's not too much for me to talk about the Book of Boba Fett, but it did not do what Lower Decks was able to do. I'll say that.
Boy, that is remarkable, isn't it? For something that we went into so skeptical that Lower Decks would land for you and introduce you to Trek, just full stop. Yeah.
All right. Jenny, I know that they can get more from us on Boba Fett at Let's Talk About StarWars.com. Anything else to tell people about before we go?
It's 14 degrees here in upper mountainous New Jersey, and I can't feel my legs. So I'm going to go.
All right. Thank you, Jenny, for hanging around. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jenny.
Oh, it's so so great. I love this show. I love it so much. I'm a patron.
Thanks for being our
Yay!
patron.
All right, hang in there, and maybe someday I'll unghost on Raised by Wolves.
Stay warm.
Okay.
Stay warm.
Bye.
Bye.
That is the Book of Boba Fett, Season 1, Episode 7, the finale. Let's talk about the Righteous Gemstones. Season 2, Episode 7. Turns out Eli Gemstone has survived, but he's unconscious. He's in the hospital, and the family is in disarray, Brian. Nobody knows quite what to do next.
Tom, it's sometimes very difficult to judge a comedy when you are alone in a room and you're not laughing along with anyone. In fact, it's rare that anything gets most people to laugh while they're by themselves. But when that BMW was tearing its wheels, dragging that trailer of magical elixirs, spinning around, tumbles over, Walton Goggins jumps out and runs off screen, I cackled like a madman alone in the room. I thought everything from the reminder that despite the heavy the fact that we ended with what looked like a murder last week, they reset everything with just a visual gag of a barfatorium between the three siblings. It's a very, very, very funny show that is very, very good.
What did you think of Gideon, just jumping right to the end, being the one to take out the ninjas?
They did a very good job. And this is something we've talked about before, where you can get away with some pretty ridiculous stuff with the right amount of priming, which is part of the genius of starting off with that ridiculous barf gag and then doubling down with the ridiculous trailer gag. So that when you got to what, if it got too serious, would look like an utterly ridiculous a jousting match on motorcycles. Instead, my brain was so, I had whiplash looking back and forth between serious and ridiculous that I was all in. It felt to me, and if I see it out of context, it will break the illusion. But in that moment, that felt like a legitimate action movie to me. The one thing that we didn't get was we went to credits before they were able to take off the helmet. I don't know if you caught it in the 1 second they showed it, but the last of the bikers that they get has long hair that comes out from underneath the helmet. So I suspect it's either a girl from his past or a new love interest or something like that.
I was wondering if it isn't the long-haired person we see in the audience when they make the false announcement that Eli has woken up as a lure. You see this kind of person with long blonde hair in the audience looking a little grim while they're saying that.
That would make sense, but what's funny, this is how good the show is you're trying to tell me about the serious plot line, and all I can picture is the visual of as Jesse is giving these false lead details of the flashing totally alone room 512 on there.
Yeah, that part was pretty funny. The ineptness is really funny. They play inept very well because you always feel like it's not overdone, where it's like, well, nobody's that inept. Like they're just believably inept that it's hilarious.
Yeah. I also liked an almost serious level of introspection on Jesse's part when, and again, they made it a comedy beat, but he realizes that, yes, you've met my children multiple times and my wife. We live here. And what's funny
was a good bit too. That was a good bit of banter.
When he marches off from their Sunday brunch, his wife is like, you don't see her face, but you can see he's going off with his wife. And like, she's she very clearly indicating. Yeah.
I also like that they have Jesse say, like, I'm not good in remembering things like whether their people are married or have children. It's like there's a bit of self-awareness there. It's funny, but it's also a bit of self-awareness and Jesse creeping out. It's probably not going to last. But he's buckling under the pressure, right?
And structurally, they do something I think important for the show, which is this is the first time, I suspect for a little bit the only time that will see a lot of time without Eli, but we see two performances, for lack of a better word, two services. One in which Jesse stumbles and can't be Eli, and another in which they have a plan to lure people in, and all three of the Gemstone children come together and they Voltron up, and all of a sudden you see a very different, very confident Jesse, who, between the three of them, they are able to summon the magic of Eli Gemstone. And I think that's the first time we've ever seen that. And again, not that this is a serious tale, but it's comforting to know that they have that flexibility now.
Yeah. I thought when Amber and Judy kind of hit it off, that was also believable, right? That Judy was like, well, dang, now you make me like you. Like, it was like, oh yeah, no, believably awful Judy and believably self-interested Amber might really bond in that way. And I also thought it was a nice touch that Kelvin was the one that Eli woke up to, because they have the rift. And
we have talked a little bit about whether the show is making fun of megachurch culture or taking it seriously or not. But I do think it's relevant that not the vinyl LP of his dead wife was able to bring him back, not, his children, spouses hitting it off or whatever. But it was the prayer of Kelvin that brought him back. And that sort of is a testament to the sincerity with which I perceive they treat this stuff. I had something else. It may come back to me. But meanwhile, Bryce, how did this one land with you?
I remember watching this. I know I watched this episode. I remember the barf sequence. The barf was great. I must have fallen asleep during watching this, because I don't remember the second half of.
Oh, yeah, basically.
But it was great. I mean, it continues to, like, it is. I've said this before. This show is very funny. I like watching it, and I don't remember any of the funny jokes. I can't grasp onto any of the funny lines, but they're there. It's really funny.
The bulk of it was taken up with a kind of straight on honeypot action setup, where they hired a bunch of mercenaries to they bought out the entire wing. I do remember. I was a bit surprised for Baby Billy's, like we were all like, well, it's not like he's just going to do the most obvious thing ever and be Baby Billy. He's going to do something to surprise us. And I would say disappointed, but that was a very funny comedic segment.
And I don't think we've heard all of Baby Billy's story. I don't think Baby Billy thought he could just be driving around selling elixirs with his face on the side of a truck forever. So I feel like there's another shoe to drop with his story too.
Maybe that's the point of this segment, is to say, no, Baby Billy will always be irredeemable. If you ever see him, and so far they're batting 1,000.
Then they shouldn't have had him doing that. I felt like that mixed the message for me. It was like, wait, but hold on. Maybe he's supposed to be that dumb where he could think he could just go off and do that. But I need something else to confirm that.
He certainly looked that dumb, but yeah, I agree.
Maybe. Also, Cliffsinger, I kept wanting to get back to this, thinks that the Cycle Ninjas might be the girl from season 1 that was part of Gideon's plot.
Ooh.
That's an interesting thought.
Why would they want to kill Eli, though?
To either free Gideon or get back at Gideon because she's mad at Gideon? I don't know.
Get revenge for spoiling the plot from season 1, maybe?
Man, but an upset girlfriend or a past grievance and recruiting 3 others.
That would be a very small world to need that to be where you pull from.
And also, wouldn't you, and to not even target Gideon, but to target his father to make him sad or whatever.
I don't know. Maybe he's like, maybe she's a hired gun and she was willing to do it because of that. I don't know. There's something there though that's interesting. It might not be it, but I don't find this as funny as both of you. I find a lot of the sight gags just leave me rolling my eyes, and I'm like, all right, like keep going. There's enough other funny stuff in here, and I found this season to be a little slow for me, because there's a lot more of that. So I want to get the hijinks rolling, and we got that in the second half that Bryce fell asleep during. Frankly,
Yeah, sorry. That's
in fact, it's actually BJ who saves the day because he is the lure out front, and then he inventively figures out to do a hospital-wide PA addressment that speaks in code and prepares everybody to have a genuine shootout in which everybody is super badass.
well,
yeah, you gotta watch it.
I gotta watch
You
it.
got so much to watch now.
I know.
Sorry, Bryce.
I will say they got me. I mentioned this in the other show. I do watch the next week on previews, and they really set up the preview for this episode. I thought, like, the way that they set up this episode, it did not seem like Eli would have survived that gunshot or the attack.
I mean, I knew they were lying, but it was a brilliant bit of editing, right?
Yeah, it's a very interesting way to use the format against, especially because it comes out every week, but you do stream it. But I don't know. It's weird. I guess it's not a lie. It's not a lie. That's not lying.
Just sweeten it. Just sweeten it a little bit.
Yeah, sweeten.
It's our interpretation that's the problem, not their editing.
I mean, this is why I don't watch any of this. It's like at best, I'm gonna.
I love it. In fact, when I watched that, I was like, oh, that was good. Like they've almost got me wondering. It was so well done, even though I'm like, but I know he's alive. So yeah, I liked it.
It made me like last week's episode better because I thought, oh wow, that is a really big surprise. They killed off John Goodman.
Interesting.
No.
All right. Any other thoughts on the Righteous Gemstones, season 2, episode 7?
Nope.
All right. Let's talk about Raised by Wolves, season 2, episode 3, Good Creatures, in which Mother decides that no, the serpent is not evil and doesn't need to be killed. And it's not just because it's her progeny. But also it seems like maybe the serpent doesn't really want to kill people and maybe didn't kill people. But I don't fully trust that the serpent is as benign as Mother says. And also other things happen.
Bryce, confess.
Man,
this is what it feels like to be an inquisitor.
Season
Bryce,
1. Okay.
all are welcome. Just unburden your soul.
Does this track with the two of you? In that season 1 felt like a prestige sci-fi drama, and season 2 feels like a show from the Sci-Fi Channel. Maybe it's a little goofy.
That's what you were trying to say when you said it's sci-fi. I'm like, okay, yeah.
And maybe I called it bad. I like.
No, you spelled it right. I just didn't catch on.
Oh, okay. I like it. I think that the season's been good so far, but we've hit a left turn last week, and everyone else adjusted to this left turn except for the viewer.
Tom, what do you think?
I felt the deja vu of the first season where we watched the first episode and we're like, oh my God, that was a movie. So much happened in that first episode. Those first 2 episodes that they gave us, I was like, I mentioned it last week. I just kept watching because I was drawn along. And this episode felt like we were spinning our wheels in place a little more. And I remembered, yes, but I did feel that at a similar point in season 1.
That's interesting. But here's something I never lost in season 1 was a sense that I was always slightly out of my depth. It was such a challenge, like a good sci-fi novel where it's like, hey, eyes on me. If you stop paying attention, none of this will make sense. I don't have a better phrase, but
they're holding our hand a lot.
The world is a little smaller.
The series is being dumbed down, and I don't know if it's because I just watched the Book of Boba Fett.
Dumbed down implies that it's not sophisticated, and it's
Right.
still sophisticated. It's just that the world is small.
What-
The last season, the world was infinite. We didn't know where they came
Yeah.
from. We didn't know what planet they were on. We didn't know what the threats were. We didn't know who the atheists were. We didn't know who the Mithraists were. And you had to pay attention. Not only do you already know a lot of that stuff, which always happens in a second season, but they also shrunk the world to a base.
They also have effectively trained us that you needn't really worry about anybody dying because they can always come back. You needn't worry about what team they're on,
Including
whether they're
the-
good or bad.
Including the kids who, like, is the very first part of the show is you watch all of them die, but definitely one of them is still
Yeah,
around
that
as a ghost.
doesn't bother me at all.
No?
That people can die or stay dead or whatever. To me, it's that, well, I've already know the landscape. There's not a weird thing out in the forest I'm going to discover. There's not a question of which plants are edible. All the plants are edible. The water is volcano. The water's lava. Can't touch the water. But you know what? We're going to forget about that for this episode. And we're just going to have the serpent be a danger. Wait, the serpent's not really a danger. Or is it? And now we've got 3 places. We've
Right.
got the base. We've got the wilderness between the base, and we got the place where the Mithraists are.
Yeah,
And it's a very small world.
Well, no, and we also have magically Bartertown that I'm certain you could
Oh,
point to
right,
some
which I
line of
guess is not the
dialogue,
base.
but then they
Right,
just take
yeah.
a left turn at Bartertown. And it's like, why do we have a 7-minute short movie that's Mad Max for no reason? And a kid
kinda
who
like
says,
that
I hate you,
actually-
Android Dad. I hate you and I'll never
That
trust
actually
you.
widened the no. That actually widened the world, though. It was like, oh, so the base doesn't control everything. So the trust isn't, or at least is allowing this to flourish. I was like, at least there's something else going on, which implies that not everybody's under constant control. That widened the world a little bit for me, and I felt like that was perfectly motivated. And until the chainsaw guy came out, I was with it.
I mean, here's my fear going forward.
Also, I like the father one. That was pretty. That's pretty.
I mean,
exciting.
first of all, look, I will not fault any of the production values. It's extraordinary. It's visual. They know how to tell a story. It is a treat. But I think if I could summarize, tell me if this lands with you, Bryce. I think our shared frustration is I had been budgeting 100% of my attention to every second of this show because I felt like if I didn't, I was going to be screwed and adrift. I no longer feel that way. I feel like whatever it is today, it's going to be something different tomorrow. And if I'm ever confused, they'll immediately show me the current alignment of everything.
I'm not even too upset about I don't know, a misappropriation of my attention or my emotions for it, but it just, if this is I don't know, I look at the first season and I look at all of the questions that it opens and the ones that it chooses to close and how it chooses to answer them. And I just feel like, for lack of confidence, season 2 of this show, is really intent on having an answer or having some amount of resolution. And it's not, and like, I'm not here to say that answers are worse than questions, because questions have a lot of value when it comes to serial television storytelling. But it just felt like a lot of things got nullified from season 1, especially a lot of really good contextual things. Like talking about the environment and the state of civilization. It's just a throwaway line in one of these episodes, like, oh yeah, it would have been great if we actually had the war, but we didn't have the war. As if that explains why there was actually an entire seemingly self-sustaining colony on this planet that no one else knew about. I mean, the 30 people who live there had to know about it. It's very that I don't know. I'm just I'm having a weird time figuring out how it wants to tell me what the story is, and also the story it's deciding to tell me.
I think I don't mind handholding. In fact, they could use a little more handholding. Explain, like, point it, since you're like, wait, there were 30 people here and nobody noticed. Well, it's a huge fucking planet, right? And
Yeah.
you've got. It's hard to It's hard to scan things. Like, you could make that more explicit. Like, well, and the reason that the scanners never found us were X, Y, and Z. You can work that in someplace. Those would be good. It's like they're hand holding us in the wrong places. They're hand holding us like, yeah. No, I know. You don't have to keep reminding me about that. I got how that works. And the mysteries are very subtle. We didn't even talk last time about Father's rejuvenation of
his
an
side
alien.
project of archaeology
his side
turned into
project
botany.
is a very bad idea and is going to turn bad. And I like that it's subtle. I like that it's just kind of like, oh, there's where the wild card can come in. That can be the surprise.
Yeah.
But it's so subtle at this point that we almost forget that it's even happening. And the only other mystery we've really got is the serpent and the nature of the serpent and whether it's really part of Mother and loyal to Mother or not.
Which
they keep talking about, like, I feel like there's another signal out there. It's like, okay, it's obviously talking to the serpent, but is it coming from the serpent or what?
And they keep doing that thing with the Mithraic guy. You know, he's got
Marcus.
He's got a bunch of crap on his face now.
I've totally forgotten from season 1 how he was bestowed with awesome flowy juice on his face.
I remember he got beat up. And maybe I thought
that's what I mean. Like, give me a reminder of that.
I've lost it. But the clue to the thing with Marcus is that a mysterious high pitch sound plays when his thing happens, and that's how you're supposed to know that that's the story plot we're talking about. That connects all of these other things.
And that's where the
there's some kind of relation. Well, and
it's tough because this has been a show that has said we're going to have not annoying answers for these really weird mysteries. And okay, so is that a signal? What is this? Just tell me what the signal is.
Yeah,
I'm not that down.
It also seems like I understand once you resolve a conflict, you have to set up another one. But maybe for one episode, let us feel like we're safe, and then maybe wait 15 more minutes before you say, but its mother is even worse. Like, you don't have to reset us back. Like, that's the kind of move you do when you're making a movie that is, or a television procedural that, like, this was the first episode that I felt like my mom could just drop right in, enjoy, and never watch any more of. And say, yeah, I watch that show, I get it. And that in no way bore a resemblance to the pilot episode that I fell in love with. And I think that's the sci-fi vibe that you're talking about, Bryce.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't cast the show off. I would like to
gorgeous,
know.
Beautiful, amazing.
Yeah.
I
I don't know. It felt so confident and very cool. And I think even with some of the visual storytelling, like they're in the tropical zone, and that's just a term, but it really looks grody and it looks like one of those video studios for sure. It doesn't look big and sweeping the way South Africa usually did in season 1. I don't know, but I guess we don't go back to those places.
All right, that's all I got. You got anything else on Raised by Wolves 203?
No, I think we'll just run in circles like a serpent chasing its own tail.
Or like a dog raising its kids by chasing its tail.
Oh, the Kerberos. Well, that is it for Spoilerin Time. Thanks, everybody, for being with us. The Spoilerin Time has reached a nexus. We now no longer have the Book of Boba Fett. And next week, we'll cover the entire first season of Peacemaker from HBO Max. We'll also talk about, of course, Righteous Gemstones, episode 8 of season 2, and Raised by Wolves, episode 4. You can support us on patreon.com/Cordkillers. Get the episodes early, get them broken up into bite-sized chunks based on the shows we're talking about. So go become a patron right now if you're not already. And thanks to those who are at patreon.com/Cordkillers. We'll spoil you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.